Hello, everybody. Today is episode 3 using Classwork and questions, and we're going to use that to try and get some information about where we're starting with our students today. The next thing of importance here is Classwork. And so this is where we're going to be able to do a number of things that involve posting some questions that are either you want a complete sentence, you may want a poll, you might want to gauge opinions or prior knowledge. You might want to set up topics for use today or for later. And you can also change the order of things, which makes it easier for students to find things once your Google Classroom starts to get populated and full of lots of different things. It can be sometimes difficult for students to find what it is that you want them to work on. But we'll show you some tips and tricks here to make it so that problem is minimized, if not completely erased. Okay, so a couple other important buttons before we start creating our first things for this classroom is there is a link to your Google Calendar here. And there is also a link to the folder for all the materials that are submitted or turned in to this class in Google Drive. I'll start here. Some things to know about this. Great way to use due dates to show students when things are due so that they can stay organized. And when I click here, it's going to actually go into my own Google Calendar. And it's likely to have like my teacher calendar enabled, which I've already gone in and I've unchecked that box, but it may have other classes checked. And so when you click that, it's kind of a personal link for the user to go to their calendar. So just know that if you're going to demonstrate that online or in person somehow, that when you click that, if you have appointments, IEP meetings, anything personal in your calendar, it may end up being exposed to other folks that you may or may not want to see that. This here is the class drive folder. There won't be anything in it, but there is a folder created if you're a Classroom user inside of your Google Drive called Classroom. And there will be a list of all of the classrooms that you teach. So you can go into each one. I have tons. But this one that we're talking about today is specific to the classroom that we called template. And so I'm going to go ahead and click out of here and my calendar. And now what we're going to do is drop down, click on plus again, major key for using so many websites today, especially education or creation websites. When you drop that down, you have the option of creating an assignment, a quiz, a question, a material, or even reuse a post from another class. One thing that I'm doing with this template idea is I could start creating a number of assignments that I plan to use in future. In fact, I could lay out my entire class if I wanted to, full of topics and units. And then when I'm ready for a specific other Google Classroom to have them, I can simply click on reuse and post them there. Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and instead of starting right out with an assignment, I'm going to go ahead and click on question. And I'd like to start my classes with some kind of a question that maybe they can share something about themselves to address social, emotional learning, or maybe positivity project, team building. I might want to know what they think this course is going to be about. So that's a simple one. So I'm going to leave it as a short answer, but I could also do a question with multiple choice where I could try and gauge opinions or kind of see if I want to pinpoint an item in my learning targets or success criteria. I could use that in a multiple choice poll, and I could decide whether I'm going to show the students the answers anonymously or not. Let's move on to the next field. Instructions are optional. You can post a question without instructions, but since we're trying to create a professional learning environment, I respond to emails to you, other staff, and students in complete sentences. And so I want to build that routine in right away. And so my instruction is simply going to be, please to respond to this with detail and in a complete sentence. Okay, please respond to this question with detail in a complete sentence. Now, if I wanted to add something from my Google Drive, a link to a website for them to view to answer the question, file, or even a YouTube video, I can click on the Add Paperclip button. Or if I wanted to create something to go along with it, I can click this and it will allow me to create docs, slides, sheets, drawings, or forms. So finally, before I post it, I want to decide if it's for more than one class, I could choose it. If I wanted to select specific students it was going to for some reason, I could do that once students are in the class. I could change the point value, or I could leave it ungraded so it would just check in the work. I do want to add a due date, and if it was an in-class question, I often wanted to, so today is the 7th of April, I usually make it due for the next day. The reason for that is if someone's absent, I still want them to do the work and answer the question, but that provides them another day to answer the question without being pressured. In this case, though, I'm planning for some remote learning, and I'm mostly going to be presenting assignments that are due during a week. In my case, I will be planning an hour of instruction with my Encore team. And so I might say what we work on this week is due Friday. I could also choose Monday. And some reasons for making that choice different is once that date passes and a student hasn't completed it, it will show as missing in their reminders. And as long as the due date is in front of whatever particular day it is, it's going to show up in their Google Classroom, and it's also going to show up as due on the classroom calendar. But once that date occurs and is passed, that'll disappear. And so that's kind of one less reminder tool. I'm going to go ahead and set it for Friday, but I'm also going to do something to tell students that I'm not necessarily marking, I'm not going to necessarily mark anything. I'm going to just pause my little video here for a second, and I am going to locate my charger. So we're going to go. Okay, so I was able to get my power cord plugged in, and let's see here. Okay, so due dates. What did I just say? Let's go ahead and. So I'm going to make mine due for Friday, so then the students have a few days to respond to those. And I'm not going to put a time, but you are welcome to put the end of the day like it's doing, midnight. I'm not trying to encourage middle school or elementary school students to stay up till midnight to turn stuff in, but everybody will have their own way of thinking about that, I'm sure. I'm going to leave that blank and click off of here. In this case, I'm going to make sure that students, instead of being able to reply to each other on this, I kind of want them to feel able to give me detail without the judgment of their peers on this, and I'm not using it to necessarily start a discussion. So I'm going to uncheck the reply button. That means that they can't see each other's entries either. But I am going to click on this. Students can edit answer, and so that anytime before I grade it, they're going to be able to change it. So if they write out something that's not in a complete sentence, hit submit, they can, and they notice, oh, wait, I wanted to put a period. They can go back and edit it before I grade or assess the work if I have it marked for points. Now, the last thing to talk about before we send this to students, which we still have to populate and send the code out, I can ask, I can schedule, I can save the draft, which it has already done because you can see right here on the screen, saved, or discard the draft if I just don't want it available at all. I want to start over from scratch. One thing to note about scheduling, if you choose to schedule, it's a great tool, but once you have decided that this is going to go to more than one class, it does not let you schedule that's grayed out. So you can only schedule for something that, like, for the specific class that you're working with. But one thing to think about with that is if I go ahead and I ask this question, like I'm going to do now, I can go and open up my other course. So this is template 2. I'll go over to template 1, which I was playing around a little bit and I already have that. If I want to go ahead and reuse a post, I can very easily go into my classes. It doesn't have to be the one I was just working on. It can be any. And if my internet connection works, someday we'll be able to actually see what this is loading. But I think you get the picture. Let's just go ahead and get out of here. And so for today, what we have done in my template 2 class, we have made an announcement and posted a question. And now that there's something in here, maybe we can talk a little bit about getting people in here. And one important thing to consider before we put people into the class. So thanks for watching. That's episode 1 of Google Classroom. Have a great rest of your day and week. Thank you.